While the mid-season trailer for Star Wars Rebels Season 3 brought a lot of reveals and surprises, one stands head and shoulders above the rest. Confirmation of a matchup that we have all anticipated since Maul returned to Rebels, and even before then, Old Ben Kenobi versus Maul. While we of course do not have a concrete answer as to the outcome of this duel, we do hold many pieces of information from both canon and legends that give us significant hints as to how the duel will play out. As seen in Rebels, Maul has been obsessed with finding Obi-Wan, as he described in his return to the Clone Wars that he has a singular hatred for the Jedi, and that it was this hatred that allowed him to survive his first duel with the Jedi despite losing his legs. When Maul and Ezra looked through the holocrons earlier in Season 3, they both discovered similar things. Ezra learned the key to destroying the Sith was Obi-Wan, or rather what he is guarding on Tatooine, and Maul discovered Obi-Wan was indeed alive after retrieving what Ezra saw in his vision. After Maul discovers the location of Obi-Wan, he makes the statement, "It ends where it began, a desert planet with twin suns." This statement leads me to believe Maul will die this season on Tatooine, as he recalls long ago hunting the Jedi on the same planet. Now let's discuss some details on the duel. In the same episode, Maul tells Ezra that both their futures converge on the planet with twin suns, asking him to walk the path as friends, as brothers. But Ezra again refuses Maul, instead choosing to rescue his true friends. I feel this line is very important. Dave Filoni has said before that the story of Rebels is about the crew of the Ghost, and that is where the focus of the series lies. He explained this when questioned about why Ahsoka's fate was ambiguous, and why we did not see the conclusion of her duel with Darth Vader. This again is a very similar case to that. The story is about the crew of the Ghost, and Maul said prior he saw Ezra and himself converge on Tatooine. This leads me to believe that Ezra will be present during the duel, perhaps with him being tempted to choose indefinitely between the light and the dark, or the life of Maul or Obi-Wan. Now let's discuss Kenobi's current state and how he should stack up against Maul in this point in the timeline. In the legend story Old Wounds, Maul finds Kenobi on Tatooine as he is guarding a young Luke Skywalker. The story begins from the standpoint of Uncle Owen, as he spots a figure moving extremely quickly towards him. When he gets a better look, he discovers who we know as Darth Maul, with long, cybernetic legs. Interesting note, the design from the comic would later be used in Maul's first pair of legs in the Clone Wars, meaning the creators have already drawn inspiration from this story in the past. What happens is after Maul incapacitates Owen, he begins speaking to someone who we do not yet see, when suddenly Obi-Wan emerges from the sand and the two begin to duel. In the story, Maul gives a surprisingly good fight, but Kenobi ultimately defeats him. What is interesting here, however, is Kenobi does not kill Maul, but Uncle Owen does. This leads me to believe, while I think Obi-Wan will defeat Maul and quite possibly injure him a great deal, he will not kill him. Another thing to note is that when Kenobi fought Maul in this story, he was much younger, about a decade or so younger, and now the Obi-Wan we see in Rebels is significantly older, since at this point we are just a few years away from A New Hope in the timeline. Another change we can expect is in canon, years ago, Uncle Owen told Obi-Wan to stay away from him and Luke, as he blamed him for Anakin's death. As to his knowledge, Obi-Wan made a misstep and Anakin was killed during the end of the Clone Wars. Owen does not know that Anakin is Darth Vader at this point. Owen even asks Obi-Wan, "Haven't you murdered enough Skywalkers already, Kenobi?" Because of this, I find it unlikely we could see Owen intervene, as even in the brief moment we do see of Obi-Wan in the trailer, he doesn't look to be close to Owen's moisture farm. But I still believe Maul will meet his end in a different way, not by the blade of Obi-Wan. A fitting end for Maul, I think, would be if Ezra kills him in an effort to maybe aid Obi-Wan, as Obi-Wan at this point is significantly less powerful than the last time he encountered Maul. This duel will most likely end up being much closer than many of us think. In Legends, Obi-Wan's age was drastically accelerated due to the harsh conditions of Tatooine, and because of the diminished ability to use the Force after the Jedi Purge. We should remember that this is closer to the Obi-Wan that fought Vader in A New Hope, not the Obi-Wan that defeated the legendary Anakin Skywalker. While Obi-Wan is still incredibly powerful, he is likely a shadow of his former self, with Vader commenting to him that his powers have grown weak. Maul, on the other hand, still seems like an agile, powerful combatant, possibly just beyond his peak, as he did compete against both Kanan and Ahsoka, with Ahsoka, in my opinion, being one of the finest duelists in canon, giving Vader a harder fight than we've seen in a long time. My point is not that Obi-Wan cannot defeat Maul, I certainly believe he can, just that the duel will be much closer than many of us have anticipated. So those are my thoughts on Maul hunting Obi-Wan to Tatooine, and the circumstances surrounding their inevitable battle. I think a fitting end for Maul would be by the lightsaber of Ezra, giving him an interesting callback to Anakin killing Dooku in Revenge of the Sith, and focusing on Ezra's smaller steps into the shadow. An interesting side note, in some supposed early drafts for Rebels, Vader was supposed to confront Maul on Malachor and defeat him before finding the Rebels, with Maul rumored to meet his fate in the first episode we encountered him in the series. But obviously this was changed to expand his story. Nonetheless, it is an interesting note that Maul's death has always appeared to be an eventuality in Rebels. I would also like to say that if Maul does die, I do not think that this will be the end we will see of him. I think that them announcing a story, a comic, whether it be a book or something to that effect, is likely after his death, similar to what they have done with Ahsoka. A story about Maul detailing where he's been for the past several years would be interesting, and I think it would sell well, especially after his death. So what do you think about this? And are you excited to see Maul and Obi-Wan duel on Tatooine? And who do you think will win and how? If you haven't already, maybe consider subscribing to ensure you stay up to date with everything Star Wars related. If you would like to talk to me directly and ask questions, my Twitter's at StupendousWave. If you enjoyed the video and feel it deserves it, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like, as it helps the channel out a great deal. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.